Okay, so this is a direct sequel to a video I made, I don't know, about a year ago now, I think, about survival kit guns. It's not that far back in my video feed or whatever if you want to go find it, or just search Peter Six Nuts survival kit guns. I'm sure it'll come up. Anyway, if you want to go watch that, go watch it. But in that, I kind of laid out the major players as I see it in the world of survival kit guns. And the reason I'm doing a part two to this video is because I didn't talk about the I think it's Springfield Armory that makes them, M6 Scout, the 410-22 over under thing. At least they used to be, I think, Springfield Armory. I think they're actually made by like Chiappa now or something like that. This is where I don't know. I don't give a fuck about that gun. We'll talk more about that gun in a second, but and in addition to that, I've been thinking more and more about my survival rifle lately because I've been building one. So we'll talk about that too. Uh, anyway, the M6 Scout. If you're unfamiliar with these guns, it is a sheet metal lower receiver break action 410-22. I think they also make them in like a 410 with center fire pistol calibers, so like 357 Magnum, or maybe even like, I don't know if they do 9 or not, but that would be one I would think they would do. They do them in other calibers, but I'm not 100% sure on what they do and do not offer. Last I checked, the ones that interested me most were the 357 over 410. The one that would probably interest me the most would be a 357 over 22, but they didn't offer that last I checked. So these guns are kind of cool. They're takedown, they're skeletonized, lightweight sheet metal guns. They have ammunition storage. Sorry, I had to take a drink. Built into the stock. But it only holds like 4 410s and like 14 22s. That's really not that impressive to me. You have a size efficient cartridge like a 22, you'd think they could pack more than that in there. Like, if you need to, make the fucking stock bigger. I don't care. Like, I don't know, maybe the Air Force required it to be really, really fucking skinny. I don't know the story on that. I don't like those guns because at the end of the day, you have kind of a shitty breakdown 410 with some sort of small game to pistol caliber kind of rifle on it. I'm just not that interested. I think you're much better off with a 22 takedown rifle or a 5.56 AR-15 or basically almost anything else. I don't like 410 shotguns. The thing that they are useful for to me is small game, but I would rather have a 22 in most instances because I can have more rounds. Like, look at that ammunition storage thing for a minute. There's only 4 410s in it. You get 4 shots. Like, what gun is worth carrying that you only have 4 shots for it? 410 isn't big enough for really to be a predator defense kind of a gun. Like 410 slugs probably could kill some pretty big shit, but I wouldn't want to test that theory. I don't know. In addition to all that, they're expensive. Like last I checked, they were in the range of like $650 to $800, depending on which one we're talking about. So, I should have mentioned that in that last video, and I didn't. But the reason I didn't is because, honestly, I prefer everything else I talked about in that last video more than that. And I think you probably would too. Like, single shot breech loading shit. Like, if it's a 12 gauge, okay, I'll put up with that. For a 410 22, not so much. In addition to that, the single shot 12 gauges that you can buy like an H&R Partner, they pop open like an M279 and you eject their shell and you pop a new one in and then close it and cock the hammer and fire. Like, you could do that while somebody's shooting at you. The little breakdown M6 Scout 410 thing, reloading it is like a mousetrap kind of an affair. Like, it does not work like a typical break action shotgun. It like has a tip up barrel and like it can be reloaded, but like the whole thing is kind of like something somebody made in their garage. And that's probably the last like nail in the coffin for me with that gun, is like we're paying $800 for it and it literally is like something a bicycle mechanic made in a garage. I don't like it. I kind of fucking hate it. Like, the 410-22 combination gun is like the lowest thing on my list to begin with. And that's talking about the fucking like nice wooden stock like Savages and shit like they gave to air crews in World War II. The M6 is definitely below that. I do not like those guns. If you love them, good for you. What I would encourage you to try, like just apples to oranges comparison, is the Savage Model 64 Takedown. Mod the magazine latch to where you can fucking use the goddamn thing, because for some reason Savage has a magazine catch on their 64 that is a giant piece of shit. But it's not that hard to mod it to where it's decent. But do that. The sights it comes with are pretty good. The thing I did to mine was add tech sights to it, but you don't even have to do that. The sights it comes with are kind of like lever action sights, like some buckhorn almost kind of things, like something you'd see on like a 30-30. And they're pretty good. I'd rock them. So, that gun is like $200. It weighs basically nothing. The other thing I did to mine was I bought an extra magazine, and then I took the two magazines and lashed them together with some Kydex on the sides. And I used 100-mile-an-hour tape and some Coban wrap for that. And it's just a giant like wad of tape holding the two of them together, but it works. And they're just, butt to butt taped together with that Kydex in the side of it. I did that so I could have more ammunition on the gun and a quick reload and that kind of shit. I don't think I'm ever going to buy any more mags for that gun because I don't see a reason to. It's nice to have two on it because that way you always have 20 rounds with the gun and you have an immediate reload. And then from there, it's a 22 rifle. I can't foresee a situation where I'm going to dump 20 rounds and then need more ammo. Like, 20 rounds of 22 for anything you'd be shooting a 22 at is quite a bit. I think that'll do, pig. Also, on a survival rifle, I think it makes sense to have a backup magazine, because magazines break, magazines fuck up, whatever. If you have two magazines, one of them will always work. That's my theory. The other one will at least hold spare ammo. Hopefully. Unless it's real fucked up. But try that gun and compare it to your whatever it is, Chiappa, I think now, M6 Scout. I don't want to say that like, oh, it's a Chiappa, that's a piece of shit or whatever. I honestly think it is Chiappa that's making those. I might be mistaken. But as far as Chiappa goes making them, like, it's a fucking gun that looks like a bicycle mechanic designed it in a garage. Like, anyone could make it. If High Point announced they were making them, I'd be like, great, at least they'll be cheap. And that's kind of my main issue with the M6, is that 22 I described is so capable of even self-defense shit. And it's like $200. You know, a 22 rifle with two 10-round mags, jungle taped like that, and a mod to the mag catch so you can actually swap them quickly, and a set of aperture sights. Like, it's not, you know, a fucking M14 or some shit, or it's not a M16, but you could put a lot of hate into somebody. You figure, you know, a 10 round 22 mag is probably 2 people each. That's 4 people. You know, you could do worse as a defensive gun. That's not what the gun is set up to do, but at the same time, with everything I do gun-wise, I'm in the back of my head thinking, okay, well, what happens when you have to fight with this? Like, that's my situations. The aliens abduct you and throw you into gladiatorial combat, and they're like, now we're going to make you fight with your rabbit gun. Doesn't everybody think that way? It certainly makes for more interesting firearms. So my objection is not so much to, you know, having a single shot 22. It's, why on earth would you have a single shot 22 even with an attached 410 shotgun when you could have a little 22 death carbine thing? Like, it's just such a better gun, and it's $200 instead of $800. And one of the important things to me in a survival kit gun is that it needs to be inexpensive. For the most part, like, you could have 1 or 2 survival kit guns that are expensive, but in a true survival kit, like, you're gonna leave this thing somewhere, you know, in the back of a car, in a cabin in the woods, something. It's gonna be somewhere. So do you want to have a $1,000 gun that you never see? Or would you rather spend that $1,000 on 5 identical Savage 22s that you don't give a fuck about? And, you know, you have one in your safe to fucking shoot regularly and practice with. You have one in your car, and then one in your cabin, and then one buried out in the back 40 somewhere, and then one at your brother's house or something. Like, you could have that for the same price as your $1,000 whatever it is. It's something to consider with the price of a survival weapon. It's like, if 1 is none and 2 is 1, then 5 is just even better when it comes to something as critical as a rifle. And, like, what are we preparing for? Like, if you're burying a 22 in the back 40 all by itself, I question things. You know, unless it's like, man, I hunt in this area all the time, and there's a natural shelter here, and I'm gonna make a cache here of survival shit at this natural shelter in case I ever get stuck out here. That makes sense. But I'm gonna cache my 22 to fight the government. Boy, I don't know. I'd have a 22 in the cache, because it's cheap and light, and either for training or small game hunting, it's useful. But do me a favor, if you're gonna cache a 22 takedown rifle in the back 40, put an M16 with some magazines with it too. Appease your gods. You know, the gods of fucking weapons and warfare, but I don't know. Some Viking shit. We're pagans now, bitches. Well, if I can get my vape to turn back on. That pretty much brings us to my survival gun that I've decided to build. And this is taking that AR-15 concept that I discussed in the last video, which is basically, if you have any flavor of AR-15 and you have, you know, a 22 conversion kit with a couple hundred rounds and whatever 5.56 you're carrying on you for combat or whatever else it is that you're doing with a 5.56 rifle, that's a hell of a survival kit. Well, I've taken that to the next level and gone, okay, what if we optimized an AR-15 for survival? Like, what would that look like? And the conclusion that I came to was an AR-15 pistol, because that makes it just ultimately more potable. And with braces these days, it really doesn't matter. And for my own tastes, I like Vietnam era carbines. Excuse me. I like Vietnam era carbines. And any flavor of XM177 just looks cool. So I found a 10.5 inch barrel on a M16A1 upper with a FSB installed cheap. And then I got the H&R retro brace. And from there, the gun has fixed iron sights on it. It has a scope mount, which we'll explore in a minute. And it's a lightweight, slim, handy little carbine. I quite like it as a survival gun. Now, for optics, it has the Stanag carry handle scope mount. And those, for the most part, I don't like. However, if you go small enough on the scope, I think they are pretty cool. And what I did was a Holosun 403R. It's basically their clone of an Aimpoint T2. And then I got an Aimpoint T2 mount that was a direct, hey, this screws into the Holosun and then it screws into the carry handle. And it has a pass-through for it for iron sights, so you don't ever have to take it off. And then I did a light mount, sling mount thing that goes in the A-frame of the front sight, and then put a Surefire X300 with a pressure pad on it. And the sling is just a utility carry strap from Vietnam, like they did on the XM177s. And for those wondering, well, why are you doing a Vietnam era carbine? Like, first off, it's cool to me. And second off, if you've never handled one of those guns, they are featherweight. Like, the reason I started at that gun is because it's damn near perfection as is. Especially in pistol format now, that you can do that and they make a retro brace. But all of that, and then a 22 conversion kit, and a tennis racket bag to hide it in, or carry it in, or do whatever. Like, for me, a gun like this as a survival weapon, I don't want everyone and their fucking, like, dog to know that it is what it is. Whether I'm, camping in my car, or going into a hotel even, or, I'm out in the back 40 somewhere camping with a bunch of friends, maybe not even all of them know I have a fucking rifle. Depends on the friends, right? So a discreet case, I think, is pretty much a must for something like this. If you wanted to, you could take the gun apart and fit it into an even smaller case. It's the benefit of the pistol. But I see that as pretty much the perfect survival weapon. You put 5 or 6 mags of ammo with that, and a few hundred rounds of 22 with a couple of 22 mags. It's a perfect package. Like, that doesn't hardly weigh shit compared to, most people's fighting AR-15s weigh more than that entire setup I just described. It's really lightweight. It's really trim. It has a light on it. I also tape a cleaning rod to the side of my gun. And on a survival AR-15, I think that's even more important, because the idea that you're in the back 40 somewhere now means that if that gun gets a stuck case and you don't have a rod to clear it, the only thing you have with you that shoots bullets now doesn't work. So it's worth having the rod taped on there. I get questions about the rod being taped on the gun like all the fucking time. I picked that up from some buddies of mine in college that did Vietnam reenacting, One of them was like invasion of Panama era to Iraq era uh, Army Ranger who was going to school on his GI Bill after getting out. And he was hanging out with all of us, and he was the one that first brought that taped clearing rod thing to my attention. And at the time, I was like, well, that's a cool thing to do to a non gun or whatever. And as a survival end of the world kind of carbine sort of thing became a pressing concern in my mind, I kept thinking about the stupid clearing rods because, like, if you ever go shooting, stuck cases happen. Like, they don't happen all the time, but if you shoot regularly, you'll encounter probably one or two a year, at least. And that's enough that, like, what if that happens on the second round out of that gun in some situation where you need it? Uh, the other cool thing about the XM177 as a survival gun is the carry strap sling things that they used on them. Looks cool as fuck on the gun, first off, and second off, as far as just toting a weapon through the woods, it is like the most comfortable sling on earth. It's so wide, you don't even need padding. Not to mention the gun itself is pretty light. So that's my survival kit gun now. Um, I don't know. That was everything I had planned to talk about in the video. Oh, there is one other thing I did want to mention now that I think about it. Talking about shotguns, I mentioned single shot shotguns and double barrel shotguns. I didn't mention the Winchester 1897 and Winchester Model 12 takedown shotguns, which actually do, if you get them cut to like an 18.5 inch barrel, they do make a pretty good survival gun. Like, with a cylinder bore barrel, it's not that great of a hunting shotgun, but like all you need to do is be able to kill small game. Birdshot will do that, and then you can pack slugs for taking on bigger game. And the slugs don't care what you choke your barrel is. In fact, cylinder bore's probably better. So that is an option. I didn't mention it because it used to be a thing that you could go to a gun show and pick up one of those guns pretty cheap and cut it down, have a new bead put on it, and have a cool little truck gun. Those days are over. Those old Winchester guns are getting more and more and more collectible. The versions brought in for cowboy action shooting are not takedown models for the most part, so you can't really buy a new one. It's one of those, if you want to invest the money in it, they are really dope. And there's something about a 5+1 pump action shotgun that can be taken apart and put in a shoebox that is just fucking cool and makes it a hell of a survival gun. Like, as far as defense goes, you can't really do much better than that. And as far as survival hunting goes, it's aight. Like, it could be worse. You know? Other pump action shotguns and shit I wouldn't even consider for the most part. Maybe something like a Mossberg Shockwave with a folding brace on it. Maybe. But I think even that would be kind of stupid. Like, most shotguns are just nowhere even in the range of being tiny enough for what we're talking about here. At least not that are pumps or autos. Other than the Winchester designs that I already mentioned. This is where, that's like the gun nerd's answer. Or someone who watched the movie The Mummy growing up entirely too much like I did. I had several of those takedown Winchester shotguns when I was in my late teens to early 20s, just because I thought that movie was cool. I should have kept one, but I didn't. Like, as a camp gun, I think it's really pretty slick because, you know, something just to blast shit around camp with a shotgun is fun. And if, God forbid, a bear came into my camp, a pump action 12 gauge shotgun with 6 slugs in it sounds good to me. Like, I would take that. I would definitely take that over pretty much any of the other options we've talked about for bears. So that is like the Mac Daddy option of bear options. I think there are some takedown lever actions in like 500 Smith & Wesson too. Those would be pretty good for bears. But that's big money. And like we've already established, I think $800 is too much to spend on a survival gun. So I damn sure think whatever a custom takedown lever action is too much to spend. But the good news is those Winchester like 1897s, if you get lucky and find one at a gun show that's already been cut down, you could probably score one of those for $300 or $400. The thing is, most of them weren't cut down and are in nice shape, and all of those are $800 to $1,000. So it depends on how lucky you get at finding somebody's garbage, basically. Because, a cut down Winchester shotgun to stick under a truck seat, that is not exactly a classy collector piece, you know what I mean? At least not to most people. It is to me. Like, I think that's fucking cool as shit, especially if somebody did the modifications to it back in the day, you know? Like, somebody cut down a 1897 in the 20s or 30s. That's just badass. Anyway, I think that's everything I could ever talk about survival kit guns. This is probably the end of this series, but who knows? Maybe I'll think of more in the future. I do have some other gun type videos I want to do, and I've just been wanting to talk about something other than Charlie fucking Kirk, so this did that. Tell me in the comments below, what is your survival gun? Or do you have multiple options? Like, that's probably the ideal, is to have everything and then just be able to choose. But if you do favor one of these options over the others, go back and watch the other video and listen to everything. But tell me in the comments what you have for a survival gun. I'll see you guys later.